Hello, everyone. My name is James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach. Thank you very much for joining me today for our session, How to Create an Amazing Resume. Over the next 45 minutes to an hour, I'm going to talk to you about why having a resume is important, how you can really use yours to your advantage, and what recruiters are going to be looking for, particularly in 2022. Now, for most job seekers, and you're probably the same, you put a lot of time and effort and energy into your resume. You put more time, effort, and energy into your resume than probably any other part of the job application process. For some people, their resume has been a document that has kind of evolved over the years. You might have written it 15 or 20 years ago, and as your career has progressed, and you've moved along with your work, you've kind of continued to update and change and add to your resume. Or perhaps you're at the start of the journey. Maybe you're a student and you're about to put your resume together for the first time. One of the great things about resumes is they can always be improved. They can always be improved. And so hopefully in your time with me today, you can improve your resume, even if it's only by doing one or two things. So don't be worried if you go through our workshop today and you think, hey, I'm doing most of these things that James says. That's fantastic. But if you can improve your resume by 1 or 2% today, that could make all the difference. Because when you're looking for work, it's always a competitive process. And the resume is often where we start as recruiters. Alrighty, I'm just going to do a few things here to share my screen with you today. We are coming to you live today via our YouTube channel, live via our LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter pages. We're also coming to you live via many of our partner sites as well. So if you're watching on one of our partner sites that we provide candidate coaching services to, thank you very much for joining with me this morning. Okay, my quick couple of things that I need to run through you from a housekeeping point of view. If for any reason I do drop off the line, please wait for me to rejoin. I am coming to you live today. This is not pre-recorded. We're coming to you live. You can ask any questions that you like in our chat function, and we will answer them as we're going along. But just occasionally something happens and I drop off the line. If it does happen today, and it probably won't, just wait for me to rejoin the workshop. Ask lots of questions. As I mentioned, we've got a chat function today. And you can ask questions as we're going along and we'll answer them for you in real time. Or if you'd like to wait until the end of the session today, we'll also be able to answer your questions there too. But it's a really good idea to take lots of notes. Take notes as we're going along, because often when you're learning, when you hear something for the first time, that's a really powerful way for that message to be received. So how you hear something and how it resonates with you the very first time you hear it is really powerful. So remember how something stands out to you in the moment, and you can do so by taking lots of notes. But also, you can watch a recording of today's workshop. It will go straight onto our YouTube channel. So you can watch a recording of this workshop again. You can share it with any of your friends who might be looking for work if you like, but it will be there for you to access again at any time. And as I mentioned, further live Q&A in the chat function at the end of the workshop today. A little bit about me before we get any further. As I said, my name is James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach. I'm also a director at Smart Recruitment. So Smart Recruitment, we're an agency, and I've been employed at Smart Recruitment since 2005. And over that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews. I've conducted over 600 assessments. And I reckon I've read over 100,000 resumes. I think I've read over 100,000 resumes. I've seen some of the most amazingly good resumes, and I've seen some of the worst resumes that you can imagine. But there's not always a correlation between a good candidate and a good resume. So this is what a lot of people don't understand. They think, well, if my resume, if my skills and my experience aren't good, I really can't have a resume. That's not correct at all. You can have a wonderful resume. You can have a well laid out, planned, and eye-catching resume that really sells and promotes you, even if you've only got a little bit of experience. And I've seen people with less experience and less qualifications have a better resume, and therefore they leapfrog the candidates who might actually be better at the job, but their resume is not laid out in the right way. So hopefully throughout today, you'll be able to pick up some tips to really improve that resume. I've placed over 1,000 people into jobs and launched the Candidate Coach in December 2019. So we've just turned 2. And the candidate coaching platform that we're meeting on today has a whole range of resources for you, whether it is resume and cover letter templates, whether it's watching video coaching, attending future live webinars, whether it's getting some support for your mental health while you're looking for work, which is something we're really passionate about. Our candidate coaching platform has a lot for you. Alrighty, I want to start off with a question. I want you to answer this question. Feel free to type it in wherever you're watching from into the comments box. But how are you feeling today? How are you feeling today? If you had to pick from this list of emojis that are on the screen, what would you choose? How would you describe your mood today? Now, you might think this is a bit of an odd question for me to be asking you. We're in a resume workshop. Why are you asking me how am I feeling, James? Well, what if I change the question a little bit and I say, what about your resume? How do you actually think your resume presents you? So if we had the same list of emojis and I said, choose from this list of emojis the one that best represents your resume, what would you choose from this list here? Are you in the top left-hand corner here? Is your resume happy? Is it confident? Is it confident? Maybe it's more like the bottom left-hand corner. You're like, it's just not great. I really don't know what I'm doing with it. I don't understand what I need to do. But have a think. How do you actually think? What is the vibe that your resume gives off? Does it give off a confident vibe? Does it list achievements? Or is it perhaps just a bit timid and it's a bit blah, it's a bit bland, it's a bit boring. You just think, my resume doesn't help me to stand out. Well, hopefully over our time today, we can share with you some tips around how your resume can help you stand out. Because with your resume, it is really important to have a job-winning attitude and mindset. So what do I mean by that? Well, we want your resume to have confidence. We want your resume to be a document that you are proud of, that you enjoy sending out, that you like showing to people because it's well created and you're really happy with the quality of it. You feel it is really promoting your personal brand and your employment opportunities. And what that shows is what we call a job-winning attitude and mindset. And it's really important to have a job-winning attitude and mindset, as we will hear now from Ryan Biggs, who is one of the recruitment leaders in Melbourne and works at the Australian Financial Complaints Authority. Ryan says, I will always go for someone with a fantastic attitude that may need a little bit of development over someone who has all of the skill, but a bad attitude. So, according to Ryan, we can have all of the skill. And if we want to take that a little bit further, we can have all of the skill. We can have all of the qualifications. We can have all of the experience. But if we don't have the right attitude, somebody with less skills, less experience, and less qualifications will beat us to getting the job. So on our resume, we need to show our attitude. We need to show our job-winning attitude and our mindset. So easy for me to say that, isn't it? It's easy for me to say, have a job-winning attitude, have a confident resume. But how to actually go about doing that? That's what we're going to show you today. Because a resume and a cover letter will do that. It will show your attitude. It will show your confidence, and it will show your intent. I can often sense how confident somebody is with their job applications when I read their resume and their cover letter. I can sense whether they're really confident, they think they're putting a great foot forward. Or I can also get the sense a lot of the time whether this person really doesn't know whether they've got a good resume, a good cover letter. They actually don't even know whether this job's suitable for them. It comes through far more loudly than you think. So I want to ask you another question. How long do you actually think a recruiter spends reading your resume? Again, feel free to type this into the comments box where you're watching. How long do you think a recruiter spends reading your resume? As I said before, for some people, their resume has been something they've built on over a 20, 30, 40-year career. You've spent hours and hours on it every year, or maybe when you've changed jobs, you've updated it. For some of you in the early part of your career, you might be looking for work at the moment, and you're really spending, 5 or 6 hours every day looking for work and working on your resume. You spend a lot of time, tens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of hours of work go into your resume. So when you send it off, when you've done these thousands of hours of work, when you send it off, how long do you actually think a recruiter spends reading your resume? Well, I'm going to share the answer with you now. 7 seconds. Eye tracking study shows that recruiters look at your resume for 7 seconds. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? For me, as a recruiter who's actively recruiting at the moment, who's really passionate about the recruitment industry, I'm really embarrassed by that stat. I'm really embarrassed that the average resume only gets looked at for 7 seconds before a decision is made. So at the 7-second mark, what happens is the recruiter on average decides, okay, yes, I'm going to keep on reading this resume, or no, I'm going to move on to the next one. If they choose to keep on reading, they will read for more than 7 seconds. But it's at that point in time that they make the decision whether you're going yes or no column. So for most job seekers, this makes them feel quite forlorn. It's a really kind of disappointing outcome. So we can dwell on that if we like. Oh, that's terrible. Recruiters only look at resumes for 7 seconds. Or what I think we should do is take that information on board and go, okay, I've got 7 seconds here. I need to base my resume around this notion that it's got to stand out in the first 7 seconds. Because if it doesn't stand out in the first 7 seconds, guess what? No one's going to keep on reading. So what you've got listed on page 3 and 4, it might be important information, but guess what? Is a recruiter going to get to page 3 or 4 in 7 seconds? Definitely not. They're really probably only going to be looking at the front page. So let's have a look into this article in a little bit more detail and find out what we can learn. So I'm going to read this to you, and if I look like I'm looking over here, that's because it's where my presentation screen is. We're going to focus on dot points 2 and 3 here. So resumes that succeeded in capturing the recruiter's attention featured simple layouts with clear sections and heading titles. Resumes organized by E or F pattern reading tendencies also did well, especially when they utilized bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. So a couple of key takeaways there. Simple layouts. We need to keep it simple. We need headings. We need titles. We need E or F pattern. So you might be wondering, well, what's the E or the F pattern, James? Imagine a piece of paper with a big capital E or a big capital F. So what we mean is we've got a couple of bold things, but a lot of things are mainly coming off the spine. They're coming off that vertical line of the E or the F. We need bold titles or headings, and we also need dot points. We love to read dot points. Final dot point. Resumes did not fare well when they were hindered by cluttered layouts, a lack of white space on the page, multiple columns, and long sentences. A lack of section or job headers also turned off recruiters, as did text that didn't flow down the page or draw the eye down the page. So we want it to be really easy to read. And a lot of people don't leave white space. They really do sort of cramp it up a little bit. They cramp it up a little bit and put too much stuff on the page. And it's really hard for us to read. It's really hard for us to read as recruiters because there's too much information there and it's not well organized. It doesn't have the headings and it's not bulleted accomplishments. So focus, maybe take a screenshot while we're here. Dot point number 2, this is what we need to do. Simple layouts, clear sections and heading titles, bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. So effective resume writing, let's get stuck into it. What actually is your resume? So let's start off by defining what your resume is. Well, it's a factual account. It's a factual account of your employment and your study history. So when we say factual, it's got times, dates, location, people's names, duties and responsibilities, company names, places, educational institutions. So it's factual. But it also needs to highlight your skills and abilities and sell you. Your resume needs to sell you. Selling yourself is so important. So my question to you, does your resume sell you? Do you think that your resume sells you? My brother recently sold his house and I'd visited his house a number of times. He had a lovely house. It was quite nice. When they listed the property for sale, the description was fantastic. It talked about some of the things I hadn't even realized about the house. When I looked at the photos of the house, I was like, wow, these photos are amazing. His house looks awesome. What the real estate agent and the person taking the photos and writing the description had done is they had focused on selling the features of the house. There was no trickery. They'd not lied in anything, but they put the camera in the best possible angle, or they described the features that really stood out. Did they mention some of the things about the property that were a bit tired and dated? No, of course not. Did they take photos of the room that were a little bit dark and dingy? No way. Of course not. They highlighted the best parts of the property because they want to sell it. That's the attitude you need to take when you are looking for work. You need to sell yourself. You need to promote yourself. You need to be telling everybody that is looking at your resume and cover letter what the best aspects are of you, what you are going to bring to the job. Because you want someone to buy you. A bit like a real estate agent and a vendor want someone to buy their house, you want an employer to buy you. And they're not going to buy you unless you sell yourself. So my number one resume rule, and the thing that we'll keep coming back to today in our resume workshop, and we'll mention in our cover letter workshop, which normally follows our resume workshop later in the week, is that your resume needs to sell you. Sell, sell, sell. Think about it when you go for a drive in your car next. Notice the billboards on the side of the freeway. Notice the advertisements on the bus stop. Notice all the things around you that are trying to sell products. That's what you need to do on your resume. You need to be selling you because your resume is you. It's your personal brand. It is you on paper. Let's mention the best things about you. It's an advertisement. It needs to promote you. It needs to sell you. Okay. Hopefully I'm getting my point across here. Hopefully you can see after reading 100,000 resumes how passionate I am for you to be selling yourself on paper. So what do we actually need to stop doing then? Because there's some starting things, there's the stopping things. First of all, we need to stop thinking of our resume as dry. Stop thinking of it as a boring academic document. Your resume is not boring. It doesn't need to be boring. It doesn't need to be dry. It doesn't just need to be black, boring words on a boring white piece of paper. We need to start making it come alive. Making it come alive. We need to make it modern and updated and fresh and now. We need it to highlight how good we are. So again, we're coming back to we need to sell ourselves with our resume. We need our resume to highlight how good we are. Okay, we need to think of it as a fluid document. So what I mean here is, again, a lot of people, they will work on their resume and they'll finish it and they'll go, okay, I've finished working on my resume. I'm now going to go and apply for jobs. And they go and apply for 20 jobs over the next 2 weeks and they use the same resume. This is a huge mistake. It is a huge mistake. Your resume is a fluid document. It needs to change for every single job that you apply for. Every single job you need to send a different resume to. You might be sitting there thinking, James, that's so much work. I'm not asking you to rewrite your whole resume every time. You might only need to change one or two things on your resume. But let's go back to the 7-second rule. We've got 7 seconds to impress someone. 7 seconds to make them want to keep reading our resume. Is the key information for that one job standing out? Even if you're applying just for customer service jobs, you need to tweak your resume each time to make sure that your skills, experience, and achievements are really coming out clearly for that one job. For that one job. I suggest you apply for each job like it's the only job you can ever apply for. If you could only ever apply for one more job, how much effort would you put into getting your resume and cover letter right? All right. First step. So we need to learn to walk here. No, crawl before we can walk. Crawl before we can walk, and then we can hopefully run. But we need to crawl first. And the crawling, or the first step, is basic resume structure. So I can give you lots of tips and lots of tricks and templates, and we can talk about graphic design and things like that. But if our basic resume structure isn't there, well, it's like trying to put icing on a cake that's horrible, you know. it might look a little bit good on the surface, but as soon as you cut into it, there's absolutely nothing there because the structure is not great. Alrighty, let me zoom in on this. So I'm going to share with you a couple of different screenshots of resume templates that I've created. So basic resume structure. What have we got here on the screen? All right, let me talk you through a couple of things. Okay, up the top, we've got the person's name. We're calling him Joe Citizen here. This is just an example. It's not a real resume. We've got his name. It's bold. We've got a little bit of iconography there. We've got the LinkedIn logo, and then we've got a house, a phone, and an envelope. So I've got all the contact details letters there. I like to see a LinkedIn profile on the top of a resume. A lot of recruiters are going to look at your LinkedIn profile, and most of the time they're going to have to go and try and find it themselves. So if you can provide it for them on the top of your resume, it's really helpful. But it also shows that you understand the importance of LinkedIn. So we've got those contact details up the top there. What you'll notice throughout the resume is we've used these bold headings or these section headings. So we've got professional summary, formal education, and employment history. We've also used, as that previous article said, the E or F pattern. So you'll see we've actually got a thick line down the side here, but we've got 2 or 3 or 4 strong lines coming off it. So it kind of looks like an E or an F. But we've used a little bit of color as well to separate those sections in that soft orange line. All right, so professional summary. Now, some people might call this introduction. Some might call this objective or statement or career overview. But your professional summary here is 1 paragraph, 2 absolute maximum 3 sentences, and certainly no more than 4 or 5 lines. But it's a summary or a statement. And this is one of the things we need to change for every single application. So we want our statement here to be a bold statement saying who we are and why we want this job. Who we are, why do we want this job? So if you have something really generic and bland, it won't get read very often, or it will sound very generic and bland because the recruiters can tell when there's a bland introduction or professional summary there. So be really punchy here. Mention what your key skill is or your 2 key skills relevant to the job, why you're applying. It's a mini cover letter. It's a mini elevator pitch. It's 1 paragraph long. Then formal education. So if you have any formal education, particularly if it's tertiary qualifications, list them on your first page of your resume. Some countries like to list them last. In Australia, we need to list them on the first page of your resume. I've seen candidates who list on the 4th page of their resume that they've got a PhD and an MBA. But if we go back to that article, which tells us that recruiters on average only look at a resume for 7 seconds, do you think someone's getting to page 4 and seeing that you've got a PhD that you've spent 8 years learning? No, you've got to have your formal education on the first page. We then move into employment history. This is the way I would encourage you to lay out your employment history. So we have the company, we have the years. If it's been more than 3 years, I would just leave the year. If it's been less than 3 years, I would include the month. So you might say February 2019 to present. But if it was 2016, it kind of doesn't matter what year because you've been there for a long time. We have the company, we have the company name, we have the title, and then sometimes you might have a line or 2 just about the company, particularly if you're working for an organization that people may not have heard of. You might put a little bit of a blurb so the reader can understand what that organization does. If you've been working at a well-known organization, let's say you're a student and you've been working at McDonald's, you don't need to put an explanation there of what McDonald's is. We then break up each job into 2 sections. I call it primary duties and responsibilities, followed by achievements. Now, you'll notice I use the word primary here, and I've said on this template to list your 6 primary duties. So you can only list 6. That's why we call them primary, because your job has far more than 6 duties, but here we can only list 6. So you need to pick 6 primary duties that are relevant to the job you're applying for. So this is, again, where I come back to the reminder for you that your resume is a fluid document and you must tailor it for each application. You can only put 6 dot points in here. So look at the job advertisement and put 6 dot points on your resume that the job advertisement wants to see. Then for the next job advertisement, if it's not asking for the same 6 things, we need to change them. We don't lie, we don't make stuff up, but we can only pick 6 things here. So we need to pick the 6 things that are going to sell us for this one job at this one time. And then underneath that, we have achievements. And I've got list 3 to 4 achievements that you made in the role. Really important to list some achievements here. And I'm going to talk to you and show you how to do that a little bit later on. But achievements is really about where we sell ourselves the most. This is where we sell ourselves. Your primary duties and responsibilities, most of the recruiters know that. And I'll use McDonald's again as an example. I've got a pretty good understanding of what somebody does if they work at McDonald's or KFC or something similar. I know what you did. But it's your achievements that show me how well you did it. And that's how you can stand out from other candidates, by showing how well you did and listing your achievements. It's absolutely critical. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at another template. This one here. So we've got a slightly different layout here. What you'll notice, first of all, though, we've got clear different sections. Again, I've used some lines, some straight lines here, and we've put in another category down the left-hand side. So let's start with the top. We've got name, address, email, LinkedIn profile. So we've got those details on the top left here. We've got the introduction again at the top, whether it's introduction, career summary, a resume objective, whatever you like to call it. We've got education, and then we've got employment history. And again, we're following the same in terms of what we're writing for each section as per the previous resume. So we've got title, company, a little bit of an introduction. We've got 1, 2, 3, we've got 6 dot points here with the primary responsibilities, and then we've got some key achievements. So one of the biggest differences, or the biggest difference on this resume, is we've got this skills and attributes column here, but we've also put it to the side of the rest of the resume. Now, some job types or some industries, and IT is one of these, skills and attributes, maybe it's IT qualifications or programming languages, are really, really relevant, and a lot of candidates need to have those on the first page. I like this layout because it makes it easy to read, and it's putting them to the side. It's not saying they're any less important, but it's kind of like saying, here's some supplementary information. Now, the great thing about both of these templates is you can go and download these templates from our candidate coaching platform. So go and get access to those, and you can complete them with your own details. So that's step 1, basic resume structure. Step 2, as you've already heard from me today, I'm really passionate about you selling yourself on your resume. And if you don't sell yourself, or your resume is not selling you, you don't have a great resume. It's that simple. Okay, but how do we go about doing it? I'm going to share with you an example of selling your experience and selling your achievements. We're not going to look at a whole resume here. We're just going to look at the last job of one particular candidate that I worked with, because this gives a great example. Okay, so this was the candidate's resume. This is how they described their job when I met them, and this was 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, nearly. They were a sales representative, and I've changed the name of the company to ABC Company. And this lady described herself as a salesperson for the company for 3 years. She sold goods, and she traveled to meet customers and to keep them happy. That is actually what she did in her job. So there's nothing wrong with that description. She's not telling us anything false. But when I had a phone interview with this candidate, I was like really impressed with what she had to say. And then when I had a face-to-face interview and I heard what she did and what she'd achieved, I was blown away. Now, in many ways, she was actually lucky to get that first phone interview. She mainly got that first phone interview because she had a tenure of 3 years as a sales representative. And as an experienced sales recruiter, I know that 3 years is a good tenure for sales, because it's a really tough job where you need to handle a lot of rejection, you need to achieve results, and you need to have a lot of resilience. So I generally have a phone interview with nearly everybody if they've worked in sales for 3 months. So she was lucky to have that phone interview. She was lucky to get to the face-to-face interview. but I ended up being blown away when I met with her. So this is her resume before. This is how we described her job after. So same person, same job, resume laid out in a better way. So what you'll notice here, we've got the bold headings. We've got primary responsibilities and we've got achievements. I've actually done, and I did say this was in 2016, I've done 1, 2, 3, I've got about 9 dot points here for responsibilities. It's probably a little bit more than I'd recommend now, but as you can see, each dot point is quite short. So each dot point, apart from maybe the third one, is quite short. So you can have a few more than 6 if they're short, but if they're sort of 1 to 2, 1.5 to 2 lines, you probably only want 6. So let's look at the responsibilities first. What this does is it gives the reader a great understanding very quickly. So the first dot point, maintain regular contact with a large portfolio of business clients. That helps me straight away understand a little bit of what she did. If we look at the third last dot point there, attend at least 3 new business appointments per day. Putting numbers on your resume is a wonderful thing to do because it helps the person reading it to really understand. I can quantify what 3 new business appointments a day is. That's 15 a week. That's 60 a month. That's, 720 or so a year. But if you just have 10 new business appointments, I don't know whether that's 1 a day, 1 a week, 1 a month, or 1 a year. So if you use some figures here in your responsibilities, maybe say 30% of my time I did this. It really helps a person reading to get a good understanding of what you did. So I won't read through all those responsibilities. You can see them on the screen here now, but we've really described well. You will agree with me, I'm sure, that in reading those 9 dot points, you've got a good understanding actually of what this person did. Now let's move on to achievements, because for me, this is the main part. So this lady was Salesperson of the Year in 2014, exceeding sales budget by 21%. 21. So I like a couple of things about this stat. She told me the year, she was specific, and she gave me the result, 21%. She exceeded her sales budget by excuse me. Now, this is not a small company that she worked for. They had a large sales team. So this was an amazing result. Now, let me tell you something else that is amazing. For being Salesperson of the Year, this lady was given a brand new car. That was the prize this company had for the Salesperson of the Year that year. She won a brand new car. I have never come across, in my 15 or 16 years in recruitment, another candidate who was given a car because they did a great job. Salesperson of the Year, she got a car, she was amazing. But look, on her previous resume, she's not Salesperson of the Year here. She hasn't mentioned it. How do I know if it's not mentioned on your resume? You've got to have the details there. She had some other achievements too. I won't read through them all with you, but you can see the point that I'm making. Your achievements are so important. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, James, look, it's all well and good for somebody to put Salesperson of the Year to have, I got 21% of my sales budget. I work in a role, for example, where we don't have targets. So the question I'd like to ask you, if you are struggling to come up with some achievements on your resume, here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to think about what you did when you started in your current job. What were the duties and the responsibilities that you had when you began, when you started over here? Now, at the end, if you're thinking of leaving or just you're a little bit along the journey, think about what you're doing in the job now. What are some of the extra duties and the responsibilities you have now that you didn't have when you started? Maybe, for example, you have been asked to help train staff. That's an achievement. You could put that on your resume. I have been asked several times to help train, maybe onboard staff. Maybe you've been given responsibility to lock up the store now at the end of the day. You weren't asked to do that for your first 12 months, but now you are. There's lots of things you can list as achievements. What we're really aiming to do here is to sell ourselves and to show that we understand we've done a good job and to promote ourselves. So if you put on your resume that you regularly help train new staff, that you've been given the keys to lock up the store, and that your manager often asks you to cover shifts, for example, you're showing some pride. You're showing pride in your work. And sometimes that is all it takes. We are looking at lots of resumes. We are looking at lots of resumes every day from a recruitment point of view where people have done the same thing. So you want to make yours stand out, and you can sell your achievements, and that will really help. All right, third step. Let's make our resume visually appealing. Now, when we talk about making resumes visually appealing, a lot of this is going to come down to personal preference and personal branding. There is no right and there is no wrong here. The good thing is there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a resume that is visually appealing. So I'm going to show you now a really good shortcut. How can we do this in a way that makes it really easy? All right, so I'm going to show you now a website called Canva. You'll see the brand up there, or the top left-hand side, canva.com, canva.com. What I'm going to show you now is free. Canva is a great site full of different design things. You can go to Canva. What will you design? I want to design a resume, and click enter. What you will see load up on your screen there now is just a wonderful portfolio of graphically designed resume templates. So as I scroll down the page, you'll see row after row of beautiful, I'll call them beautiful. I'm a recruiter. I love resumes. I think these resumes are beautiful. I think they are eye-catching. I think they are sexy. I think they will help you stand out if you choose one of these formats. Because don't forget, a lot of us recruiters, we can easily read over 100 resumes every day. That's 500 resumes every week. So when most of those resumes are black words on white paper, black words on white paper, black words on white paper, if you suddenly then see a resume that's got some color and is pleasing to the eye, it stands out straight away. But it's not always easy to do. So that's why something like Canva is absolutely wonderful. Now, let me show you how easy it is to use. Let's say, let me find one that I might like to use. And again, not all of these are going to be to your liking, or not all of these resumes are actually going to be appropriate for you. These resumes in particular are best if you're looking to create a resume probably of 1 to 2 pages in length. Let's just say, for example, this one here, Chiaki Sato. Let's just say I like this one here and I want to make that my resume. You simply click on the resume. It then opens it up for you. I might zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. And then everything here is editable. So I would put my name in, James Whitcomb. That's a bit large, so we need to make it a bit small so it fits in. James Whitcomb. I put in my title here. I'm a recruiter. If I want to put my own photo in, I've got my own photo saved in here somewhere. There we go. Oops. Now I drag my photo up into there. There we go. So I've got, and then I just continue to go through and I change all the details around for mine. So obviously you don't leave any of the details here. Oh, I'm wearing the same shirt and jacket. That's coincidence. We need to change all these details. We can't lie. We're not lying on our resume, but we'll go through here and we'll just edit everything up. And then we can add another page if we want and continue to add different bits and pieces. But as you can see straight away, how different does that look from a normal resume? It looks very, very different. And this to me, at the very least, this to me would make me realize that this job seeker had put in a fair amount of effort. Their resume is important to them. They understand their resume is important to them, and they've gone about creating some effort. So, yeah, we'd put in, maybe this is our summary here. That summary, and that's not quite aligned, so I'd line that up. We'd write that in here. Here goes our education. Awards, so we could have awards or achievements here. If you had an IT background, for example, for this one you might do C++ programming. And they've kind of shown here that they've got like 4-star, 4 out of 5 there, whereas problem solving only 2. contact details. Move it all around. It's completely up to you. But having a graphically designed resume template is a great way for you to stand out as a job seeker. So again, Canva, canva.com, Australian CEO. I use the paid version. It's only about $15 a month, but what I'm showing you here, you can do for free. So go away and make the most of it. So as I've mentioned, you visit Canva, or actually go back to the Candidate Coach and use one of our templates. And then the fourth step, as I said, we need to change our resume for every single application. This is something that a lot of job seekers just don't like doing. I get it. It means you've got to do more work. That's right. You've got to do more work. But again, I'm going to read 100 resumes today. I can tell the people who have done more work. I can tell the people who have put effort into their application. So what I want to say to you, even if you are unemployed at the moment, you're doing nothing other than looking for jobs, I don't want you to apply for any more than 2 jobs every day. Maximum of 2 jobs, because you need to be researching the company, researching the role, tailoring your resume, and as we show in our next workshop, tailoring your cover letter. If you are spending 5 hours a day applying for work and you're applying for 2 jobs, you're going to get a much better response than applying for 50 jobs in 5 hours, which the job boards do allow you to do. And so we can see when someone just goes click and apply, and sends out that same resume 100 times in a day, we notice. Whereas if you tailor your resume for every application, you choose your summary, you choose which dot points and achievements to list, you make it really relevant to the job. Look at what the job ad is asking you for. Mirror that. Mirror it in your resume. Alrighty. I want to go through some of the common resume questions. And if you've got any questions now, feel free to type them into the comments box. How long should my resume be? Great question. So I have a personal preference. The hard thing is other recruiters have a personal preference will be different to mine. So I'll give you my answer in a moment. But one of the challenges for being a job seeker is, even with a lot of my advice today, not every recruiter will agree. Some recruiters will say, I do like a graphically designed resume. Some will say, I do prefer black on white. So you can't please everyone all the time. I used to say a good resume is 4 pages long. I then said, I think about 3. I'm probably now at 2 pages. Even 1 page. I've seen some amazing 1-page resumes. Your resume does not need to tell the whole story of your whole career. The aim of your resume, to be honest, is to get the recruiter interested enough to call you and want to talk to you about the job. And that's where you fill in the rest of those details. So my advice would be 2 to 3 pages, no more than 3, but it's up to you. If you prefer 1, go for it. If you prefer 4, go for it. Just be aware that your first page is the most important. And in that, when we apply that 7-second rule, let's be honest, what are recruiters looking at in the first 7 seconds? It's only on the front page. So don't save any of the good stuff for page 2, 3, or 4. Should I include a photo of myself on my resume? This is a very big question. The answer is, it's completely up to you. So what have I said to you several times today? Your resume needs to sell you, needs to promote you. It's an advertisement for you. It's your personal brand. So let me ask you this. If you put a photo of yourself on your resume, do you think this helps to sell you? Do you think it actually detracts you from your chances of getting the job? Only you can answer that. Only you can answer that. What you need to be aware of if you put a photo on your resume is that people are going to judge you based on your appearance. Even if they're the world's most unbiased recruiter, we all have what we call unconscious bias. When we see a photo of someone, in our mind, we make assumptions and we are biased towards the way some people do and don't look. So if you have a photo on there, it's got to be professional. It's got to be corporate. It's got to be smiling. It's got to be well presented. If you want to put it on there, go for it. If you don't want to put a photo on your resume, don't worry about it. A lot of candidates get angst over whether or not they should or shouldn't put a photo on their resume, where it probably doesn't make a big deal either way. Should I include references or academic transcripts on my resume? I like it when a candidate mentions their reference contact details. So the last section on your resume, you might have reference details and you might just have their name and their title. What that shows me as a recruiter is it often makes me think, oh, this person's listed a senior person here that obviously the candidate is confident they're going to get a good reference. Don't include written references and don't include academic transcripts unless you've been asked to. And do you need to include every job that you've ever worked in? My answer is no. My answer is no. If you've had a 25-year career, we want to focus on the last 5 to 10 years. The job you had from 2000 to 2005, for example, the skills and experience you got in that job are not going to be anywhere near as relevant, given it was 20 to 17 years ago, as what you've done now. So normally what I would do is you might list, the jobs from the last 10 to 12 years in great detail. And then, for now, you might have roles prior to 2010, and you might just literally dot point company name, your title, and the years. Alrighty, so a summary of today. Sell your skills, sell your experience, and sell those achievements. You really need to sell your achievements. Make your resume easy to read. We've talked about this in particular with the layout and design. We need white space, clear section heading titles, and bullet points. It should be visually appealing, and it's okay to be bold. It is okay to be bold, and your resume must be tailored for every single job. Alrighty, if you've got any other resume questions, please type them in now. We are answering your questions as they come in live. So feel free over the next couple of minutes to type the questions in. But just a word, if you are still wanting more assistance, we've got so many resources available for you on our candidate coaching platform. We've got video coaching episodes taking you through the whole journey, whether it's resumes, cover letters, interview techniques, salary negotiation, the whole lot. We've got those templates that I mentioned you can download. We've got downloadable interview questions based on individual industries. We have online assessments you can take. Practice your skills for the job you're going for. We have checklists like the video interview checklist you can see on the screen there now, which will help you to make sure you're best prepared for a video interview. We have articles that you can read. We have specific advice and tools for executive job seekers, and we have mental health support. And all of this, as well as our live upcoming workshops. We run 8 workshops most months of the year, 2 to 3 workshops most weeks of the year. All of this is available for you for free on your candidate coaching platform. Would love to get your feedback from today. Please take some time to complete the 2-minute survey. You will see that on your screen now. We would also love for you to follow us on LinkedIn. We post a lot of information on LinkedIn, a lot of tips, a lot of tricks, a lot of tools. We advertise all of our upcoming workshops. So please follow our LinkedIn page. That is The Candidate Coach, all one word, but maybe take a screenshot of that because we're about to move on. We've got some questions coming through in the chat. I'll answer those just in a moment via the chat. But we'll finish today with this particular video. This video here is really important to us because a lot of people, whoops, what have I done there? Gone to the wrong screen. A lot of people do struggle with their mental health when they're looking for work. And it's not something that anybody should be ashamed of. So in this video, we're going to show you how to look after your mental health when looking for work. We look forward to seeing you at our next workshop. Thanks very much for joining us today. The chat function will be open until there's no more questions. Enjoy the rest of your day.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. A lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work. And undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that is encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.